Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's time for the Brown Sports Bag from the heart of the Barrens, a weekly local sports machine. Alongside John Butler, here's your host, James Brown.
Well, John, we're back. We took a few weeks off. I mean, we actually took about 3 weeks off by the time it's all said and done. We went and spent some time over the holidays with some family, got to visit some folks, that kind of thing. How was your Christmas and New Year's, John?
It was fun, healthy.
That's good.
You know, healthy.
One of the rare ones at the moment.
Yeah, healthy. It was fine.
Yeah, we got the family together, did some fun things. I went and covered some basketball games in these pre- and post-Christmas tournaments. Got to see some pretty good teams. Got to see some interesting basketball games. Didn't get to see either one of the Barren County teams because the girls were in Owensboro before Christmas and the boys were in Florida after Christmas. I got some reports from both of those. I think we broadcast the girls' games, so that was pretty good. Here, actually, on the score, we broadcast the girls' games out of Owensboro. And then I got to go see the Caverna Lady Colonels play some. They had a tournament over at their place. The Glasgow Scotties played in a pretty good tournament, I thought, over at Camelsville. Some pretty decent competition, I thought, in that tournament. They went 1-2 over there, but like I said, it was pretty good competition. The Trojans went 1-2 down in Florida. I think the Trojanettes went 1-2 up in Owensboro. The Caverna Colonels, they went 3-0 in a tournament at Whitesville Trinity after the Christmas break. The Glasgow Lady Scotties ended up going 2-1, I think, over.
They had two tournaments, three and three.
Yeah, that's right. So they had a pretty good little run during the Christmas break. So overall, it was a pretty good time. Did you make it to any basketball games during the Christmas break?
I did. I went and watched my niece play.
Yeah, up in Lexington?
Up in Lexington. They played over in Madison Central.
Yeah, okay.
So I made several trips over to Richmond.
Yeah. Where did they play over at Richmond? Oh, you said Madison Central.
Madison Central,
I've never been there. Is that a pretty good facility?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I mean, they've got good teams.
Good teams, nice school.
Yep. Do you have any takeaways from the Christmas break stuff? I mean, we've talked about this before.
Has anything really changed our mind?
No, I don't think so.
There's nothing really that's changed my mind, to be perfect, if you're just talking about the region.
Yeah.
The girls, Bowling Green has probably become even more of a strong favorite, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, they are legit, top 10 team in the state.
Yeah.
And you can tell, too. Sometimes you can just tell by who teams schedule. Mm-hmm. To what they think, to be perfectly honest with you. And they have, Bowling Green has put themselves in, they played, I think the two top girls tournaments over Christmas is Lexington Catholic is always up there.
Yeah.
And now this Bullet East tournament that has become a big, big one. They kind of compete with Lexington Catholic. The top teams kind of go to both of those tournaments. They play at the same time, too.
Yeah.
And Bowling Green went to the one in Bullet East, and they played Sacred Heart, number one team in the state, defending state champions, with not only all their players back, but probably the best freshman has transferred in too.
Yeah.
And they only lost us by 6 points to them. Mm-hmm. So they played probably the best team in the fifth, and Bardstown, Bethlehem. I mean, they are really reaching out and playing teams, and they're going to be a load to beat. If I had to put like a horse racing odds, I'd make them right now the 1-9 favorite, which is as low as you can get to win this region right now.
Yeah.
And nothing's really changed my mind. I think Barron's probably locked in at number 2. They're 8-3. Mm-hmm. Struggled to score down in Owensboro. They went 1-2 and did not get to the 40 points 2 games, so they really struggled offensively down there.
Yeah.
I know they faced one really good team out of Indiana. Mm-hmm. Did not play after Christmas. They got a tough game tonight at Central Hardin.
Yep.
Central Hardin's probably the second best team in the fifth.
You figure Bethlehem's the number one team in the fifth?
I think it's either Bethlehem or Bardstown.
Yes, that's right. Bardstown, they even though Leah Macy left,
they're still pretty good.
Team.
That's correct. And so that will be a tough test tonight for Barren. And then after that, Logan is like 13-2. They're come out of nowhere. I think they won 5 games last year. I don't know how serious their schedule's been. Yeah. I mean they're 13-2. That give them credit. Franklin Simpson's only lost like 1 game, but they. I've looked at their schedules and I don't see a top team that they've really beaten.
Yeah, I do think out of the talent level from coming back from last year, I do think Franklin Simpson brought back the better talent.
Right.
I think they're legitimately got talent. It's just that their talent is very young. That's not unusual.
No, not in girls.
No.
And Logan, has got a good record. 13-2 is 13-2.
Yeah, they play the Lady Scotties tonight, and that'll be an interesting game because the Lady Scotties have played a lot better after their first couple of weeks.
Right.
And they opened the season against Logan County and took it on the chin from them.
And they got it up to 6-6.
Yeah, they're up to 6-6.
6-6. They've. I know Mia Cassidy's played well. She averaged like 14 points a game and shooting about 35% from three. They're coming along slowly. They really struggled to score early, and it looks like they're starting to put some points up lately. Chloe Hale, Ashton Bites, starting to score a little bit more. But it's Bowling Green. I think Barren is still locked in at 2.
Yeah,
and everybody else. It's we'll see how it. This is the second part of the schedule. It's always the preseason through Christmas. And you kind of get an idea who's strong, maybe who's weak or whatever. And then you got the January through February schedule, then you have your postseason. So this is the next phase. And like I said, you've got COVID that's running rampant right now. So, you've got people in and out of lineups at times too. So sometimes scores can be deceiving. You got to know who's playing who.
Right.
To be perfectly honest with you, but I think the girls, it's no doubt Bowling Green is the strongest team. We'll see how Barren has not played for a while. They've had a pretty good break.
Yeah. So
they get back in it tonight with a very difficult game against Central Hardin.
I'm a little interested about the 15th district as well because prior to Christmas, I kind of thought Barren was 20 points better than everybody in the district on the girls' side, and I still think that's probably the case, but I do think I thought Monroe would be the second best team in the girls in district, just because of the experience they had back. But I was pretty impressed with how Allen played against Barren in that first meeting. Now they didn't score very effectively, but in terms of defensively, I thought they played pretty well.
Which they normally do.
They do
against Barren. Yeah, they do.
And I do think the couple of girls, Steenbergen and Covington, I think looked a lot better than they did last year on both sides of the floor.
Right.
So I think they may be the most improved team in the district, just in terms of what they brought back and how it looked versus how they played last year. So I think in Glasgow, they're starting to do the things Coach Pippen wants to do in terms of running their offense and playing tough defense. And so I think those other three teams are a little more interesting, a mix-up there. And Barren's still clearly the favorite in the district.
Right.
So, I mean, is that kind of how – have you seen that? Is that kind of how you –
Yeah, I think Barren's the best team. I just they handily beat Monroe.
Yeah.
Which surprising they beat them that bad because talent-wise, I think Monroe would be more competitive.
Yes.
Ben Monroe came back and beat Glasgow. I think Monroe, Glasgow, and Allen are close. I still think Barren is the better team, but anything can happen, and it's not like Barren has dominant talent.
Yeah.
They don't, but Raven Ennis and Abigail Varney can score, and they got a good point guard and Murphy. I mean, she's a nice player that's been around for a while. And then they have Lockhart who's back. So Barren has some pieces. They've struggled at times to score. I think once they kind of get back after Christmas and get into a rhythm, I think that'll pick up again.
Yeah, because they looked early in the season like they could score at will in their first few games,
right.
And then they kind of hit the Metcalf game on. I think they hit a little bit of a lull. Raven got hurt in the Metcalf game,
right.
And maybe that's thrown off the rhythm of the offense a little bit.
We'll see.
Trying to get everything back together after that. On the boys' side,
the boys' side is I can't pick one team. I can pick three, and I think there's a separation. It's Greenwood, Bowling Green, and Central.
Yeah.
And after that, boy, it's tough to come up with who's number 4, to be perfectly honest with you. But those three, Bowling Green, Greenwood, and Central appear to be, I think, arguably top 25 teams. For sure, top 25 teams. I think Greenwood's only lost once, and that was to Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Central went out and I think won a really good Christmas tournament. Bowling Green played well and got third place, I believe, in one.
Yeah.
And they have expanded outside the region, which I like to see. How do you play against other teams outside the region? And those three teams have played extremely well against outside competition.
Yeah.
And I think that's that's really good. Barren went down in Florida and I don't think played particularly well. They went 1-2. I know the second team they played is a prep school that was just formed this year, and it's mainly Division I basketball players. They ran into somebody like that, and
introduction to high caliber basketball.
And then got beat by a team out of New York. But had trouble, scoring. That's kind of been the bugaboo right there. Didn't get over 40 points twice. So they're 6-5. They've beaten. Listen, all their losses have been to legitimately good teams.
Yeah, they've played the toughest schedule of probably just about anybody.
North Laurel was ran second in the Lexington Catholic tournament and second in King of the Bluegrass. Warren Central, Bowling Green are top teams. We've just talked about that. So they've played a heck of a schedule. They've got to figure out, first of all, they got to put the ball in a basket. I'm not telling you that people don't know about it. They're struggling shooting. And point guard play has been a little bit of an issue, trying to figure out that spot and so forth. So, but they still have January and February to kind of get that rolling, and they have the teams that they've should have beaten, they've handled. It's just stepping up to that next level of competition. They struggled a little bit.
You mentioned the point guard thing. One of the games they did lose was to Madison Central before the Christmas break.
They played well in that game, too.
They did play well.
Played real well.
And I actually thought Aiden Lycan played well as a distributor in that game as well. He had quite a few assists and that kind of thing. But I don't, I guess you kind of need somebody who can also just set up an offense.
They do.
When you got to grind some things out.
Right, and they're trying different people. And it's just, trying to find that person that wants it. Not everybody wants that position. I'll be honest with you, it's not an easy position to be honest with you. So they're still trying to find it. They've gotten good play at times from different people, but that game in, game out, I still think they're kind of searching for that.
Yeah,
I thought Glasgow boys had a good break.
I did too.
They played in 2 tournaments, and they're 7-5 now, and they were competitive in every single game they played. Even their losses were close.
Yeah. Outside of one bad third quarter against Butler.
Yes, Louisville Butler. Not Butler County.
Yeah, Louisville Butler.
Who's got a good team. Madison Southern is good. They're like 9-3. Their games in both the Christmas tournament in Edmonson County. They lost to Ohio County by 1 on a last-second shot. And the tournament in Camelsville was a good tournament. Marshall County was in it as well. Louisville Butler, Madison Southern. That was a good tournament. I think Glasgow has to be overall pleased with what they got out of those 2 tournaments. Jackson Poland had some big games. I think he's averaging like 18 points a game. I think he's shooting about 42% from 3, which is fantastic. Glasgow has 3 kids in double figures. Sam Bowling at I think 14 a game, and Ashton Serwinski's at 11.2, and they played well over Christmas. Their only 2 I would call debacles was Warren Central and Bowling Green, and they were. They did not. Listen, I said those 2 teams are the best teams, but Glasgow didn't compete with them. It's one thing to lose to them. It's another thing not to compete, and they didn't compete in either game, really.
I was as I was watching the Glasgow versus Butler game, I would compare Butler to a Warren Central. In the sense that they have the size and the length. They're not quite as committed to the pressure that Warren Central is to force the turnovers and that kind of thing. But I'll tell you another thing. They had probably 4 or 5 different guys who could really shoot the ball. And they ran things to get those guys open shots. And like I said, outside of that third quarter against them where Glasgow they got outscored, I think, 15-2 to start that quarter, and they just struggled on the boards and to score on the other end and made some mistakes. Outside of that, I'm with you. I thought they played real well against good, strong competition.
And unlike the girls, where in the girls, I think Barren is the best team in the district. I don't think anybody that's honest will really, or biased will disagree with that. I think Allen, Monroe, and Glasgow girls, they're fairly even at times. In the boys, it's clear, in my opinion, it's Glasgow and Barren.
Oh, yeah, I would agree.
And
we'll find out this week.
Allen just got their first win last week. I think they started off 0-8, and Monroe has struggled at times as well. So the boys is a little bit. I think it's clear in terms of those two, and they need to stay away from each other. They don't for both Barren and Glasgow. They don't need to play each other in the first round of the district. They need to take care of business as much as possible.
Yeah, they don't need to go out there and lay any eggs in some of these district games.
The region,
and overlook the competition.
But the region is really, really. I think there's a separation between those top three teams. Now, the good thing for the region and boys is only two of those three will make it to the region.
Yeah. And the other thing, though, I think there's kind of a clear second level maybe that's including Barren, Clinton, and Glasgow in that second level. And if not for the fact that Warren Central and Bowling Green and Greenwood, all three look so good this year against outside competition, any one of those three would be in the hunt. It's just that things aren't.
I'm interested to watch Russellville come in tomorrow. Barren plays at Central Hardin tonight, girl-boy doubleheader, and they have a boys-only game against Russellville. Russellville is a team that was struggled last year, but they got fifth-year players back, plus they got two Logan transfers.
Yeah.
And one of them is
Rooster,
who's
Anthony Woodard.
Anthony Woodard, who's been an all-region player at Logan for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
He can't do nothing but help them, I would assume.
Yeah, one of the things about them is they're in the position where they made it to the state finals in football. A lot of those guys played football as well as they played basketball. So Russellville is a team. We'll see. They probably this Christmas break they probably took the time to maybe get people on the same page. Maybe if they had some health issues coming up with football, maybe get through that. So yeah, I'm interested to see when they play Barren tomorrow night because they've struggled early in the season, but I don't know how many of those games they played with the full team.
When you get to the state finals, you miss the first week of the regular season, much less the 6 weeks of practice.
Yeah. So I don't know if we'll know how good Russellville is until we get probably closer to the end of this month or early next month. Once those guys all get on the same page. But it will be interesting to see them play Barren tomorrow night. I think that'll be an interesting game. You pointed out that one. That's an interesting game. Barren has 4 games. The boys have 4 games this week. You mentioned Central Hardin tonight. You can hear that game on Nash 103.7 with Jay Turner on the call. The girls' game is the early game. The pregame show starts at 5:05, so tune in, catch that stuff. And then they host Russellville tomorrow. That's an interesting game for them.
Monroe.
Friday, they play Monroe in a district game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, doubleheader. And then Saturday, play Oldham County at Bowling Green at 5 p.m. So pretty good. Another interesting week for the Barren County Trojans in terms of their schedule.
Very busy.
Yep. The Scotties only have 2 games this week. They play Taylor County tomorrow night. I think that'll be an interesting game for them. And then they play Allen County Central on Friday. That's a girl-boy doubleheader. So that'll be an interesting matchup there.
Taylor County at home or away?
That game is at home tomorrow night. At least that's what I have on my schedule.
Okay.
And then
they need to take care of business Friday.
Yeah, they do. They do indeed. And then real quick, the Lady Scotties, they host Logan tonight, as we mentioned. That's a JV varsity game. Mm-hmm. And then we mentioned the Friday game against Allen County at home. The Lady Colonels are playing Camelsville tomorrow night, and then they have a district game against Hart County on Friday. Going to be interesting. I thought they played better over the Christmas break. Kayleana Richardson is a very good basketball player. They struggle with some depth issues, I think, as much as anything. And then, Hart kind of whipped up on them in the first meeting. And then they play Logan County on Saturday at Bowling Green. They got a whole thing going over there. I think they got 3 or 4 girls games and 3 or 4 boys games. I guess they're playing in 2 different gyms because a lot of them are about the same time. And then the Colonels, they won a tournament at Whitesville Trinity I mentioned over the holidays. I think they are 6-6 or something like that now. And then they host Camelsville tomorrow, and then they get Hart County on Friday. So pretty busy, right back after Christmas, pretty busy week just right off the get-go for basketball fans out there. It's never a dull moment around here. Anything else about the holidays or upcoming games that you're looking forward to?
No, I mean, I'm just, everybody gets back in high school, they get back to school. So they get, that starts, get a little bit more structure going. Just hope that this rash of COVID right now we can kind of get through this next month. Yeah. As healthy as possible, and stay away from weather issues, and kind of like to see people get into a routine here. Yeah, that would be real nice. Yeah. All right, it's the Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
John, something else that there was a lot of while we were away was college and NFL football. That was pretty interesting. I guess let's start here. Let's start with the 4 games or the 2 games that were the college football playoffs that were played Saturday, I guess it was. Friday.
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 December 31st.
Yes. They want to get that debacle out of the way before the new year so it can't be hung on 2022, I guess. But I don't think there was any question for most of the season that the two best teams in the country were Alabama and Georgia. I don't think there was a question other than when Alabama beat the snot out of Georgia. The question was, well, maybe we were wrong about Georgia. Michigan found out, no, Georgia just is maybe the second best team in the nation. We'll see, when they get to rematch again next week. Because Georgia's defense looked just like the defense it had looked against everybody else all year when it played Michigan on Friday. I mean, they were just smothering them. They were faster. They were bigger. They were stronger. They were everything. And Michigan couldn't – Michigan is a Big Ten team that's supposed to be good at football, and they almost could do nothing on offense against the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's just you're telling the wrong person right now about college football. I mean, I'm just not. I'm not real high on college football, so I'll tell you, I'm the contrarian to everybody else who loves them some college football. I'm just not real fond of it right now. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time since we had a good even Final Four.
Yeah, we haven't. Most of those first semifinal games through the years have been not good.
And and we have Alabama fans around here.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how many Alabama football fans, but there's Alabama fans. But if you're not an Alabama fan, it's kind of old.
Yeah.
It's just I respect the heck out of them. I respect Nick Saban, but daggone. If the same four teams were in the Final Four in basketball every year, would that be fun?
Oh no, and that's part of the problem.
And that's part of the problem. I know, and that's why I think expanding to 12 would be better. You go, well, still Alabama and Georgia may end up in the finals. They may, but the process of getting there would be more exciting.
So that's an excellent point, John, because if you look at the NCAA tournament, the men's tournament, year in and year out, the games that people are most tuned into and focused on are those early round games because that's where all the drama is.
That's correct.
If you look at the Final Four or the Elite Eight a lot of times, year in and year out, those games are not as interesting as they play.
I agree. And here's the other thing. And Cincinnati may not can beat Alabama. Obviously, they couldn't. There's a mismatch at the line of scrimmage.
Yes.
But in a 12-team situation, maybe somebody else could beat Alabama.
Yeah.
Which would leave Cincinnati still around.
After I watched that game and the game the next day, I thought Cincinnati maybe should have been the 2 seed.
Yeah. I mean, stuff like that can happen. And it's just I'm just more convinced that it needs to be expanded that way. And just if you're not in the Final 12, I would just have nothing less because these bowl games are just too many transfers, too many opt-outs. It's just, it's amazing. It's incredible to watch, and people get so excited about winning these. I do respect, Kentucky had a good win against Iowa.
Yeah.
And
it was actually a good game.
It was actually a good game, and Mark Stoops' teams, most of their players play. Mm-hmm. And I respect the heck out of that. They play and so forth like that. I can tell you one thing, you don't want to play a military school in a bowl game because those boys are serious. They ain't opting out. They know transfers.
It means something to them
as
well.
It does. That's exactly right. But all these other ones, good gracious.
Look, if you were at the Air Force Academy or the Naval Academy or West Point or whatever, your next assignment is not going to be in the NFL or anything like that. Your next assignment could be anywhere.
Yeah, they're playing.
And it's not going to be nearly as much fun as beating up on somebody on a Saturday afternoon in a bowl game.
Right, I agree. So so now we're left with Alabama and Georgia, and it does seem like if the goal is to put the best two teams in it, well, you could go back to the old BC. What was that? The
BC. Yeah, see, I was thinking about that.
Go back to that because those would be the two probably you'd match up with, I would guess. But anyway, so it is Alabama and Georgia, and it's a very regional game. Mm-hmm. It really is. I'm sure to get a big rating, but it's a
Paul Feinbaum will have a lot of fun
it's an SEC. All the SEC people. It's that type of game, and I don't know who's going to win. I think Alabama's got the best quarterback.
I really like Bryce Young a lot.
Yeah, I do, and that normally is a huge factor. And Kirby Smart's done a great job, but I can't. I've watched sometimes they'll what the networks were doing. You could watch the coaches and the live feed, and Kirby Smith goes crazy during the game.
Yeah,
I mean he's every which way, and I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest with you. And he's going to have to show me that he can beat Nick Saban. I know it's just not those two; it's his team, but it's and he almost beat him a couple years ago. Georgia has, so I'm sure he can, but it's still. I'm a little surprised that Georgia came out as a favorite, and I would never make anybody against Alabama in the final game a favorite.
No, you're going to start down a field goal at best against Alabama until something changes.
Right. So it's next Monday, and next Monday's the final.
Yes, the 10th.
So we can make our predictions next Monday.
Yes, we can make them before the game next Monday.
Okay, good deal.
I do predict this. It will be a heavily watched game, even though it is a very regional game, because I do think the two teams are good enough, talent-wise, that will interest people.
Well, it's Monday night. What else is going on?
Yeah, maybe some high school basketball.
Yeah, it's going to be watched. No question about it.
One of the other things, going back to the idea of expanding the football playoffs, I would not use this committee system that they have now to pick the teams to be in the playoff. I would actually go back to the BCS computer ranking system. I would take out the poll part of it and everything else and keep it strict in a very narrow focus on the computer side, because, as you just pointed out, the BCS actually produced what you wanted it to produce. It just didn't produce enough outcomes that people wanted to see, meaning it only produced two teams playing each other, and then everything else was meaningless.
Yeah.
Now we have four teams playing, and everything else is meaningless. So if you go to 12, why not just use a computer system and scrap all the other ideas, in terms of how you're going to get these people in there. But first, I'm with you. The expansion of the playoff. People after those two games on Friday were looking at this from the wrong angle. They were not looking at it from the point of their own perspective when they watch an NCAA tournament. They watch those early games. They don't
and it builds up too.
Yes, there's a whole lot more excitement around the 64 and the 32 than there is the 4 and the final.
Yes,
because a lot of times, year in and year out, we do get down to the 4 teams that should have been there to start with. But all the fun was had the week and a half before.
Yep.
So I just think the whole argument about, there's no reason to expand it, is just a dumb argument from the perspective of what people are actually interested in.
Yeah, it's like I said, if you just put if you expand it, you just give more opportunities for upsets and things like that. And the process, I think, builds momentum.
Yeah.
Rather than, Alabama, if you're just going to pick 4 every year, they're going to be in it 9 out of 10 times.
Do you know what the present setup is? You're basically giving one of the best coaching staffs in the country a month to prepare for you.
Yeah.
It is, in essence, if you gave Bill Belichick or some of these other great coaches through the years, or Bill Parcells or that kind of thing, a month to get ready for you, they're probably going to beat you because, generally speaking, they're just better than you are. True. And their talent is better.
And the genius of Coach Saban is he changed when he needed to change.
Yeah.
Offensively, he changed.
Yeah.
And since they've opened his offense up and got quarterbacks and receivers, they're almost unbeatable.
And yet they still run the ball down your throat.
When they have to. That's right.
What did he run for, 204 yards?
Yeah, because they got dominant linemen.
Yeah, so in the end, it's he changed up, but they still can do the things they did. They just do everything else better as well.
That's correct.
You mentioned the Kentucky-Iowa game. That was a good win for the Wildcats.
Good win.
That was a
the quarterback was the one that I doubted earlier in the year.
Was it Will Levis? Is that his name?
He played well.
Yep.
A big drive at the end, and he made some clutch throws. And I told you, the Robinson, the receiver, is an NFL prospect.
Oh yeah,
he is not coming back. No. I'd be shocked. He's a big time player.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, they ran into one of those academies, and that didn't go so well.
Again, a team that, for some reason, Louisville went off as a favorite, and I'm thinking, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life.
There's no way they said, this is Air Force and this is Louisville, and they were going to pick that ACC team.
And ACC's down.
Yeah.
ACC's very down. There's no way that I take I would just take all the military academies against anybody in these non-playoff games.
Yeah. Because like we just talked about.
You know what you're going to get.
It means something to them.
Does.
In ways that it doesn't maybe in other.
And I think Louisville tried hard, but they had people who left. Both of the receivers already transferred out, and this and that, and you just don't see that with the academies.
Yeah, no, it is a mismatch in those situations, and I guess those bowl games, when the military academies are playing in them, are probably more interesting than some of the other bowl games in a lot of ways. You know, I sometimes look at the bowl games this way. I like to find the games that are kind of interesting in the sense that the programs that have people who are trying to prove something. And one of those that turned out to be kind of interesting is Matt Carroll at Ole Miss. I don't know if he was trying to prove something, but, you know, he got hurt in that game, and a lot of people were giving him grief for not opting out and all that.
But it's not like he got hurt back. I mean, he sprained an ankle.
The point is he got hurt, and that's why people
are making this. Even if he broke his ankle, I mean, quarterbacks have very low risk. They need to play games. Yeah. It's not like even if they hurt their knee, they're coming back. Good gracious, they
could dislocate their hip like Tua Tagovailoa.
I respect the heck out of Matt Carroll. I mean, I do respect him, but to think he was heroic for being a quarterback.
No.
I mean, it's crazy. And I mean, he turned an ankle. He's going to be fine. And it's not going to hurt his draft status.
No, I just was.
Quarterbacks should always play.
Yeah.
Always play.
Because if I'm a running back, that may be a different story.
Running backs are different. Yeah. But I did not like what the Pittsburgh guy did.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh guy, who's second in the ballot for Heisman, decided not to play in their bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, why? You need to play.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, play. You're not going to. There's nothing he can do to hurt his draft chances, in my opinion, other than hurt his team. Mm-hmm. And in the first quarter, his backup quarterback gets hurt, and now Pitt has to play with the third-string quarterback, and he just can't win that way. And I didn't like that at all. I think quarterbacks, come on now, play.
Well, and the interesting thing about that game is Ole Miss was having problems blocking before Carroll went down in that game. I mean, you know, their backup quarterback got just mauled throughout the game. But I was just kind of fascinated by just I guess I'm just fascinated sometimes by the response to things, because the responses are so narrow focused time frame wise. Mm-hmm. Like the responses are so in the moment, and I don't just mean people on Twitter. I mean people getting on TV or the radio and then just spouting off.
Right.
And they have they provide no perspective whatsoever.
None. That's right. Perspective that's a great word. It's very few people give perspective.
Yeah.
It's just like spur of the moment, let's just give some bombastic statement.
Well, and the other thing is, I'd be curious to know what their thought on the record was prior to this outcome. Mm-hmm. You know, even if it was just an ankle injury, even if he broke his leg or whatever,
he's going to be fine.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to know these people who get on there and start like just giving their opinions on these situations. What was your opinion beforehand? You know, were you one of these people who said, no, nobody should be skipping and all that?
Yeah.
Then the dude gets hurt and he goes, oh, well, he should just skipped and taken the money or whatever.
Was it more dangerous? Was it more any less dangerous to play the previous game?
No. I mean, you could just do what Jamar Chase did, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, the 9th game, the 10th game. I mean,
yeah. I don't know.
For a quarterback in particular, running backs, I sort of understand.
Yeah, because you only have so many
hits
years in
That's
you.
That's correct. And you can just see that. There's statistical things that you can look at where, when a running back gets 29-30,
mm-hmm.
they're pretty much shot.
Yeah.
Last I checked, quarterbacks are playing a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we got them out there at 43, 44 years old playing exactly these days,
right.
Or 39. Guys getting called back who are 37 years old.
So it doesn't make a bit of sense to me. Okay, I'm not going to play in this game, but I played in the game before. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And quarterbacks are so important to their team.
Yeah.
Unlike even a running back or a defensive back, mm-hmm. I just think when a star quarterback decides not to play,
mm-hmm.
it just I do think there's still something in this crazy world we live in where you owe something to the people that you work with.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing to me is like no one wants to feel like they I guess everybody wants to feel like they shouldn't pressure someone to be a part of the team,
right.
To make their own decisions.
That team got that kid to a certain level too.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the quarterback is great, but Trevor Lawrence plays for the Jaguars, and guess what? He does not look like the Trevor Lawrence who played at Clemson.
That's right.
Because the talent around him compared to the talent they're competing against is much less. Clemson was superiorly talented whenever he was there, which is why he
got to be the number one pick.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons he looked so good, and that's the case with so many of these guys. But once you put them in a different environment, that the talent difference, peer talent difference, shows up. And you're right; these college quarterbacks who are highly recruited and all this kind of stuff, many of them are that good, but the talent also helps them reach a level where they're going to get that payday.
Yep.
And also, when you're talking about Carroll there, I mean, he plays for Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin runs an offense that's going to make every quarterback look good. He's done it everywhere he's been. So, I mean, that's part of the deal, too. Anyway, I know the only interesting thing, I guess, out of the whole bowl season and all that kind of stuff, there were some interesting games, I guess, for secondary programs. That Kentucky-Iowa game, which I thought would be terrible, turned out to be a really good game.
It did.
I believe the national championship game next week will be actually a very good game.
I hope so.
I mean, I just can't believe Georgia's defense is going to let Alabama do that to them again. I don't think the talent gap is that big.
No, I think it's the second time you play a team. That's rare in football, except in the pros.
Yeah.
The more familiar with it, there has to be. I guarantee the game would be a low-scoring game, and it'd be a lot of adjustments will be made.
Yep. All right, it's the Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be right back.
Presented by McDonald's of Glasgow, it's back to the studio with James and John, the Brown Sports Bag.
Well, John, the college basketball season kind of got rolling pretty good now because a lot of the conference games got played starting last week. WKU's first conference game, which was supposed to be against Southern Miss, was postponed or canceled because of COVID issues within the Southern Miss program. So they did get their first game, ended up being Saturday at Louisiana Tech. Lost that one by a point. That was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, lost a 14-point lead.
Yeah.
Did not score the last 4 minutes of the game. I mean, that was they did that a couple times last year.
Yeah, I remember.
And this is the first game they just basically just gave away.
Well, and the interesting thing was, they lost that game to Buffalo, and they didn't defend very well against Buffalo, and Buffalo's a good shooting team, and they didn't score, but Josh Anderson didn't play, and they had some other, I think, health issues during that game. Maybe they had 3 people who actually didn't play during that game. But against, when you get, they're in a position in playing this Conference USA schedule where they need to be in the best position possible by winning these regular season games. There's, just like in football, like we've talked about in this basketball the last couple of years, they really cannot afford to lose games like this. And because that's going to hurt their tournament seeding, and you got to win this tournament in order to get the NCAA tournament. And that's where where they want to be. So they just can't afford to do that. Meanwhile, the Kentucky Wildcats, West Virginia transfer there, Shebway, he's
Oscar
mopping up the boards and blocking shots. He's doing all the work.
Well, I'm now on the UK train in terms. I think they're really good.
Yeah.
This Shemway, he's a double machine.
Mm-hmm.
Cal is finally playing the transfer guard Gundy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a heck of a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's shooting close to 45%. He's playing him major minutes, which he should have been doing all along.
Yeah.
The freshman Ty Washington is, legit. And then the point guard, I'm not 100% sold on the Georgia transfer, the little guy, forgot his name.
Yeah.
5'8". He's a heck of a dynamic passer. I like my point guards to be able to make threes, and he does not.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I think Kentucky is, for real, top 10 team.
Yeah. One of the things we didn't get to talk about was the fact that Kentucky and WKU put together the game to play whenever the game with Louisville got dropped because Louisville had COVID issues. Again. And so WKU ended up winning that game by 30, I think it was.
No,
85. UK won by 30, 85-55, I think it was. Shebway just dominated
28
rebounds in that game.
28 rebounds.
Yeah, I mean, he just killed WKU in that game. And that was... It wasn't his coming out party per se, but it certainly was, I think, within the state of Kentucky where you had a lot more eyes on him playing in that game than you would have otherwise. Meanwhile, the Cardinals, they have two conference wins, three conference wins.
Three. 2 on the road, North Carolina State, Georgia Tech, and got a good home win against Wake Forest.
Yep.
Listen, they're kind of ugly to watch at times. They struggle to score.
Yeah.
But give them credit; they're 3-0 in the ACC.
Yeah, and the Wake Forest game, our guy Mason Faulkner had a big game there. 5 assists, no turnovers, had some points.
11 points. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a good game for them. He didn't play at all against Georgia Tech. I'm not sure why.
He didn't make the trip.
Didn't make the trip.
Right.
Okay, so I hadn't bothered to go and look it up. I just knew he hadn't played. So, that was 3 good wins for them, especially considering they were so up and down coming into those ACC games.
They're just offensively, they're challenged at times.
Yeah.
But they have kind of gotten going a little bit since the Western loss, so give them credit.
Yep. All right, so good for them. So hopefully the WKU Hilltoppers will get their business turned around here as they move on into the conference play. Kentucky, like you said, they look strong. Louisville, they're talking about gritting out some wins. That's basically what they're doing right now in this ACC.
Yeah, and you got to navigate the COVID.
Yeah,
a lot of cancellations right now in college.
Yeah, they're getting hit every night. All right, this is Brown Sports Bag brought to you by McDonald's of Glasgow. We'll be back next week. Coming up right now, you can catch the Camelsville Lady Tigers featuring 3 of our local players, Bailey Pettigo and Elizabeth Bertram from Barren County and Ashanti Gore from Glasgow. So stick around, listen to that, and we'll catch you again next week, 4 o'clock.
Thanks for listening, and be sure and join James and John once again next Monday at 4 for the Brown Sports Bag, a local weekly sports machine presented by McDonald's of Glasgow.
Coming soon to your FM dial, this is Fox Sports Radio, WCDS Glasgow, AM 1230.